F1 Sim Racing 2026 is back, the 8th championship, and the team taking you through all of the action here in Birmingham at DreamHack, the resplendent view of Birmingham. What a city it is in the mighty United Kingdom. And the team taking us through all the action today here with all of the sim rigs in a LAN event is George Morgan, Kai Bacchini, and Nicola Hume, and myself, Tom Deacon, is back. 8th season, we're into it. It's the third day, a third race. I've dressed as if I'm going 10-pin bowling after this. Yeah, yes. Straight away, I'll talk about it. I haven't cosplayed up.
It's important that no one can see your shoes, yes.
That is a good point. Nicola, we were treated to some brilliant action for the last 2 days. We're going racing around Bahrain. Looking forward to this one?
So excited for this. I'm such a fan of the Bahrain circuit, so I'm really excited for qualifying. It's going to be a good one. We've had a dramatic couple of days, so honestly, whereas I would have thought I would have gone into this with confidence of, I feel like this could go straight to this guy. Now I do feel like it could be anyone's game.
Yeah, any one of these drivers. We've had 2 different winners. George, what's stood out for you so far?
Well, I think we witnessed probably the most bizarre Japanese Grand Prix race I think we've seen in F1 sim racing history, and indeed in competitive sim racing history in the F1 game as well itself. I mean, credit to Otis Lawrence, fantastic victory, taking the championship lead as well, but all eyes had to be on the 2 that jumped the start to begin with. Freddie Rasmussen later DNFing out of the race, and then you had Nicolas Longuet, who actually managed to push the boat out along with Freddie to 8 seconds. We actually thought they could have broken that 10-second time penalty gap. Just wasn't to be, unfortunately, but it was a cracking drive from Nicolas Longuet.
At one moment, Kai, you were like, there's no way they can come back into this, as we look at some highlights, but they actually did. They were so close.
Yeah, I was very, very surprised. I think me and George both were so surprised. We saw those 10-second penalties jump up at the start of the race, and, well, in my head, instantly thought, well, we can rule out Rasmussen and Longuet because there is no chance they're going to get a 10-second deficit. Very much did they prove us wrong.
It happened. It was ferocious. Any surprises for you? Any sort of standout performances as we watch back some of these highlights?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to give credit, first and foremost, to Otis Lawrence, the race winner, obviously coming in. Effectively, it was also a team victory in many ways, because Ismail Fassi was actually struggling with fuel input because, of course, they believed that they would be part of a train, therefore being in a position to save fuel. Unfortunately, because Nico and Freddie had gapped the pack, Ismail had no one to DRS off the back off, so he was left on his own, had to carry the speed, and being on a light fuel load meant that he wouldn't have been able to finish the race in the manner that he would have liked, therefore not being able to plug the gap that was left by Freddie and, of course, Nicolas Longuet. Therefore, Ismail took full advantage. He moved ahead of Ismail Fassi. Jarno Opmeer, of course, going long on the strategy, felt that he had to as well, certainly after what had happened in Q2 in qualifying, sinking as low as 14th. So Red Bull looked to have all their cards stacked in favour of Freddie Rasmussen. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be later on, as we will see in the highlights. But it was very, very fraught, and time penalties were indeed dished out. We'll talk more about this later on. But Thomas Ronha, who charged at the inside, both he and Tamas Gal actually the recipient of post-race penalties.
Standing out, the standout performances for me, you can't go against Otis Lawrence as we see him celebrating. And Nicola, you chatted to him, you can see what it meant to the team.
Oh, he is just pure joy. I mean, to be fair, he's even joy when he's not doing so well, but seeing that reaction in person was actually brilliant for us to see here at DreamHack, and everyone just joining in. The entire team of Alpine running straight up to his rig to just grab him and lift him up. It was absolutely brilliant. It was lovely to chat to him yesterday. I also had a chat with someone else from Alpine that we'll talk about later.
Oh, teasing it, throwing it forward. Someone's done radio before.
Welcome.
Jan Halliday, his debut, and picking up some points, and vital points for Ruben Pedrena moving from Williams coming into this. It was set up so perfectly, Kai, for our second race of the season, and it sets the tone for those strategy going into each race perfectly for Bahrain today.
Yeah, strategy is always going to be a huge thing coming into these races. And Aston Martin, I think yesterday, had an unbelievable performance with Pedreño and also Halliday finishing up in the point-scoring positions. I think just yesterday and also the day before with our race in China shows that we had 2 completely different top 10s. Anybody's within a chance of finishing in the points today.
Let's have a look at the driver standings then. This is how things are set up for today. They see Otis Lawrence top of the drivers there right now. Freddie Rasmussen, very disappointed. We haven't touched on that, but really unlucky yesterday in the race.
Yeah.
No points picked up.
Well, I mean, Unfortunately for Freddie, it came to an end around the Degners, just getting onto the curb. And unfortunately, when you get onto that curb as well, it's slightly raised. Your floor hits it. You've got no chance of rotating, especially coming through that second Degner, and then you've got the barrier to contend with. So the big question mark was obviously around the damage that he sustained. Were the tyres, obviously, due to the fact that they were pushing defective, therefore he wasn't able to carry the grip through those series of corners. It's just a comedy of errors, really, in that situation. Obviously, speaking to Nicholas Longa, as I did earlier on today as well, coming into this morning, he turned around and said, had Freddie stayed out and carried on, he believes they could have done enough to actually stay within the podium places. They reckon there was more to give there.
That's fascinating. Let's look at the team standings then. There's so much to unpack from yesterday's race, and we will bring you all of the info on those penalties. But there you go, Alpine. No wonder they are in a good mood today, coming in to DreamHack Birmingham and just got a 2-point advantage over Red Bull because we talked so much about they were the Tiger with the target on their back. Nicola, can you just bring us a little bit of detail on this? Where are the teams staying? Obviously, lots of them staying in Birmingham. This was a fact I did not know from Alpine.
Well, I was going to try and tease this for later, but now you've thrown it at me. And
we've done it. I've teased it beautifully.
We can either hold on to it or we can talk about it.
Listen, monochrome sister, we can hold it if you like.
Let's hold it.
All right. Yeah, go on.
Oh, all right.
Go on, do it now.
Okay, so earlier on, I had a really lovely chat with Harvey Partridge. Now, he is the sim team manager for Alpine. Walked up to me, biggest smile on his face, and I was like, let's get this on camera, so let's have a look. Harvey Partridge, I had to grab you after all of the drama and the excitement yesterday. Have you calmed? Are you feeling cool and collected ahead of today?
I think as much as we can. It's a new feeling for me specifically as team manager. I think the last 2 races we've scored more points than the last 2 seasons put together. So I'm not used to being near the front or having such good results, but the team is, so they're ready. So I need to just stay away from them and keep my nerves in check.
Did you get the opportunity to see the graphic on the screen the moment that Alpine went from second up to the top of the Constructors' Championship?
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. It's just such a good result from the guys today. Danny was storming through, Otis was just rapid. It was to see them take first and see all their hard work that I know they've been doing since before the summer just all come together was just fantastic.
Well, it was really nice because after Otis's win, he basically just thanked all of you for all the work that you guys have been doing. So how did that feel?
I mean, Otis is as a gen, as is Danny. You know, they are drivers, they are the people that bring the difference at the end of the day, but the engineers behind them have done a fantastic job. I've tried to support them with all the systems that they need and to give them a cool marketing activation to come back to. So yeah, it's just nice to have a team that appreciates everyone for everything that's put in.
Very nice. So last night were there celebrations had? What did you guys get up to?
We had time for our celebrations. We then went back onto the stand to debrief. I had the guys do some media with the guys for Esports Wales. They were very interested to speak to the 2 Welsh drivers we've got. We did some signing sessions, and then it was straight back to Enstone, and the guys were on the rigs doing some practice.
Back to Enstone?
Yeah, so we're staying not too far away from the factory. It's not too far of a drive to and from the factory every day, so they are getting practice in the evenings if they choose.
So it's right, I know you've had a busy day, you've done a quali, you've done a race, but now we're going to do even more because we need to do even more tomorrow, as in today, because we're racing Bahrain.
Yeah, I mean, the choice is all up to the drivers, but they're so hyped up from the results today and what they know they can achieve that they wanted to go straight back and get all the hours in on the sim they could.
I love it. It feels like the entire team is just high on life right now.
We're just all behind them. The energy is unreal. Everyone believes in everyone, so we just need to keep this going.
Amazing. Harvey, thank you very much for chatting to me. I'm excited to see more over-the-top celebrations later today.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you very much.
How do you sign up to be part of their team? I'd love to be part of their team.
It's just pure joy, pure joy. And the fact that they finished such a busy day yesterday and then went back to Enstone to carry on practicing for today.
Yeah.
I love it.
Charlie was making it very clear, I'm not a taskmaster. I'm not making them do it if they want to do that, but that is all the preparation. That's the life of an F1 sim racer.
It is, and do you know what? When you've got a driver like Otis, he embodies, I think, someone who has a lot of passion for this sport as well at the same time. I don't think we can really call him a prodigy anymore because he's now a 3-time race winner. He is a full-on competitor. And we mentioned that the Alpine team now have developed themselves into an outright team that can battle with the likes of Red Bull, and that's proven here today with Otis taking the lead of the championship away from Freddie Rasmussen. I would not be surprised if we see him win a 4th race, a 5th race, a 6th race. He could be champion come the end of this season, who knows? And to also have Esports Wales in their back pocket, you know, like I said, Cymru and Bydd.
Hang on, am I just hearing that accent there? Yeah, that's exciting George greatly. Let's look at the schedule. It's so much to unpack there. I also particularly liked Charlie talking about the cool marketing activation. He had to get that in there. Sunday, that is today, March 29th, 2026, 1 o'clock, which is pretty much now. We're going to go get into quali, and then we'll have the race at 3:30. Let's look at the grid then, George. Talk us through it.
Yeah, let's go from start to finish. Kicking things off, Tamas Gal and Joris Krozen at Haas, featuring once again the two drivers that have performed for the team over the last two races. They're about to enter their third of the season. Back-to-back top 10s as well for Joris Krozen. He'll be hoping to continue this vibrant run of form. Next up, we do, of course, have Racing Bulls as well, with Tom Manley, who's only actually obtained one podium in his history, that coming at Zandvoort back in 2024. Ulas Azilrim also with a podium against his name as of this season at China. We can now move on as well to Aston Martin. Duncan Hoffland, who is still chasing some big points as well, much like Ruben Pedreño, though he did scoop a P6 in Japan yesterday. There's Duncan there on the left-hand side, smiling as ever in support of the Mean Green team. Onwards we move. Istvan Pukki, Nicholas Longue stepping up at Williams, of course. Alvaro Carreton was in yesterday. Pukki back after his debut for the team in round one to start the new season. Nicholas Longue, who very nearly captured a podium in a gallant fashion after that 10-second penalty was issued. We next move on to Red Bull Racing. Obviously a very tricky day at the office yesterday. Freddie Rasmussen with every chance of laying claim to back-to-back wins after back-to-back poles. It wasn't to be. Jarno Opmeer looking for a much better qualifying session in, well, certainly to try and right the wrong from yesterday. We now move onwards to Ferrari on the other side of the stage. And Nicola, what are your thoughts about this team?
Well, Ismail Fassi has had a solid weekend so far. I mean, he came 6th in China, 2nd in Suzuka yesterday, so moving in the right direction. Who knows? I mean, he was on pole last year here in Bahrain, so we'll keep an eye on him. We've still got no Barry Burremand. He's not going to be here this weekend. He did win Bahrain last year, so it's a bit of a shame that he's not here. But we do have John Evans in his seat. I mean, he came 12th yesterday, 15th the day before. I know on paper it looks like an improvement, but there were a lot of penalties yesterday, but we'll take it. We'll see how they get on. Yeah,
he was trying to help his teammate yesterday as well. We move onwards to Mercedes. Kai Ronhart and Klaffenbach back in the seats.
Yeah, it's been a tricky start to the season so far from Mercedes. It could have been 4 points that they walked away with yesterday, but as we know, it's Thomas Ronhart who loves a good dive bomb. Unfortunately, the stewards not taking it in his favour yesterday. A 5-second penalty was awarded to Ronhart, which dropped him out of that point scoring position. However, 2024, Bahrain was his circuit. Pole sitter and race winner in 2024. He took a bit of a break in 25 in terms of the result, but can he come back in 26 stronger?
We'll soon find out. Klaffenbach, obviously the youngest driver on the grid this season. Tom, we move onwards to McLaren. Jake Benham lining up with Alfie Butcher. Both of these drivers, both taking podiums in the first two races.
Yeah, and both relaxing, as you can see right there. Just taking it all in. Jake Benham picking up his first podium yesterday around Japan. That is his third podium in his F1 sim racing career, and it's his third place finish. Also, Alfie Butcher picking up a podium in China. We're expecting big things. They're currently third in the team's championship.
Yeah, and also a big stat for Alfie Butcher, 50% win to podium ratio since he commenced his F1 sim racing career. What a stat.
I knew you'd have a better stat than me on that one.
He's good
We're
on
a
his
team,
stats.
Thomas.
That's it. We fist bumped it for anyone who can't see that. But the fact they're picking up podiums, very important. Who else have we got?
Well, next up, Alpine. Last but certainly not least, the team that currently have a championship leader in Otis Lawrence after a stellar victory yesterday. Yes, you are Gotis once more, my friend. But can you do it again as we move through to Bahrain? 3 out of 4 podiums have led to wins for Otis Lawrence in only a short career so far after coming in last season. Danny Berejnay, ever so experienced, chasing a 6th win and an 8th pole position if he can. Very good over 1 lap pace, but equally as fast in race trim as well.
What I find fascinating, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, is just how relaxed some of the drivers are out there.
Well, McLaren were fully asleep.
We're fully in the zone. They were in the sweet spot.
Oh no, of course, not having a nap. Just focus. I see.
They weren't buffering. The fact that I look around there, they're enjoying it almost at the moment. I know when it's business time, they're getting straight into it, but other than that, Kai, they're really just in a zone right now because these are the best.
Yeah, and 100% of their focus is going to be on F1 sim racing. A lot of these drivers do compete in esports during the off-season on other games, other championships. However, once the season starts, it is full swing, full momentum, full focus on this Formula One game, and Alpine showing that very much, going back to Enstone on the evenings to compete and practice on the simulators. Now, if that isn't dedication, I don't know what is.
Here we go then. Let's have a look at the circuit that we're going around today, Bahrain. The history of this circuit in F1 sim racing is truly fascinating, George.
First Grand Prix back in 2004, fastest lap, or the lap record, still in possession of Pedro de la Rosa. The year later that it was opened, incidentally, in 2005, the 1:31.447. Now, Nicolas Longuet, who we spoke about, very furious over one lap pace. He is incidentally a pole sitter around this track, and that was with Alpine, who are our current championship leaders with Otis Lawrence at the helm at the moment. But we are racing around the desert today. Of course, 2 DRS zones to be aware of. Of course, you've got the one down the long main straight coming out of turn 15 through towards turn 1, and then in the middle sector coming out of turn 10. Very tricky around that corner as well. Be cautious on the brakes coming out of turn 9. That will be fairly complicated, I think, for some of the drivers to manage, especially with the speeds they'll be packing. And certainly in race trim, they're all going to want to race wheel to wheel. Turn 11, then sweeping uphill. The elevation changes almost instantly, moving out of 11 in towards 12 and 13. It's a spectacle, really, for overtaking, isn't it, Kai?
Yeah, it is. I think out of the selection of tracks that we've had this weekend, this is going to be one of the most exciting races. So many overtaking opportunities, strategy thrown into the mix as well. I'm sure we will see a variation in terms of what the drivers and teams are choosing in terms of strategy. But for on-track racing, Bahrain packs a punch.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this, gentlemen. I don't know if anyone else noticed at the beginning, Thomas Gao drinking fizzy water at the beginning. You know, the green cap was on that bottle of water.
It's brave, isn't it?
That is very brave.
It's going to be very burpy.
And with that bravery, I'd like you to put on the spot. We've got a fantastic live audience. This is what F1 sim racing is all about. A live audience waiting to go racing and get qualifying now. Put your money where your mouth is. George, Kai, Nicola, who's taking pole. It's been back-to-back poles for Freddie Rasmussen. Is he going to do it again today?
Well, I think one thing we did note about Freddie, he had a difficult season last year, and he bounced back straight away with the pole to kick things off. I think he's going to be really yearning to fight back after what happened yesterday. So I am going to push my chips to the Freddie Rasmussen slot this time around. I think that's where it's going to come from.
That's what George does with chips when he gets a burger as well. He just pushes them all to one side. Kai, what are you going for?
Oh, I think it's hard to turn a blind eye to Otis Lawrence. He was fast in China, made a mistake on that incident with Jarno Opmeer, but took the race win yesterday. He's been practicing overnight. Surely it's another pole.
I was pointing because Nicola was just leaning back here. What are you saying? Who
No,
are you saying?
that's because while Kai was talking, I saw a yawn from Freddie.
Okay.
So I think we need to focus on his tiredness. I mean, we've got to also bear in mind that
You might just be relaxed.
Freddie has never been on the podium in Bahrain.
No.
So I don't know if this is maybe one of his tricky tracks. So actually, I'm going to put my chips with extra ketchup on Fassi.
Yes!
Ketchup.
Yeah, I'm
gonna
doing
say.
it, I'm doing
The
it.
fact that Ismail Fassi finished 6th in China, and then on the front row, got a podium in Japan, finishing P2. I think maybe this is the return of form for Ismail Fassi. He was so exciting last year. When you look back to last year, at just another stat I've just had a little look at, Jarno Opmeer, no points last year around Bahrain, and none for Freddie Rasmussen.
But Jarno Opmeer does have 4 podiums in 6 runnings.
That's what I knew you would throw back at me.
Yeah.
This feels like a battle of stats, George.
Stat off.
He is the most successful driver, technically on paper, where it comes, without a win, obviously, in certain races. Of course, last time he won at this race, it was back in 2020 in his championship winning. Well, he was not a championship winner necessarily on that occasion. Of course, it was, well, no, he was, incidentally. Do apologise. Of course, he won it with Alfa Romeo. But you know, he does still carry that raw ability to win races around Bahrain. It is possible, but looking at that stat, it's all about consistency in winning a championship. Jarno, like I said, 4 podiums in 6 outings.
He's so good. That's why he's a 3-time world champ. Kai, talk to me about track temperature. That's something I'd like to focus on, because at one moment we had rain in Japan, and then out of nowhere, what is happening? I'm imagining it's nice and hot down there.
Well, I wouldn't be worrying about any rain over in Bahrain. I think it would be the biggest curveball we've ever seen in F1 sim racing history if there was any rain.
The only
that
rain
came up.
is the rain that's actually in the last 4 letters.
I
in the
knew
name.
that George was going to have a gag somewhere. I knew it was coming.
So there is rain somewhere.
Yeah, bar. All I'm doing is bar to that. That's my response. Track temperature, we've got an update on that. It's hot out there. So what would happen if anyone new watching, drivers are just going out getting a sort of warm up, essentially, but when would they start to get out there and set some times?
Well, we've seen it time and time again over the course of this weekend. Drivers go out, intermediate set of tyres, which you may be looking at thinking, are these guys crazy going out intermediate tyres, wet weather tyres in the dry? No, this is just to test the equipment, make sure everything's working okay, and make sure that everything is running smoothly. Towards the end of the session, crunch time, last 5 minutes. That's when we'll see the proper lap times to flood in on the timing tables, and that's when you can start paying attention to who is going to go through with our final 15 into Q2. Bahrain's going to be an interesting one. Night race, and the track is lit up by the beautiful floodlights surrounding the circuit. It may be a night race, but it's not going to be cold at all.
Can we talk briefly, just because I fancy it, Haas? Can we talk about them?
We can.
One of the smaller teams in the F1 sim racing world. They've produced talent. Thomas Ronhaar first, then Alfie Butcher have gone on. Joris Krozen, it's been a great start for him.
It's been a wonderful start. I think, certainly coming into China, of course, they came in last season, didn't they, with Krozen and Tamas Gal, really finding their feet now. Krozen, back-to-back top 10s. I think that really speaks volumes as to where he currently sits at the moment. Seems to manage his races very, very well indeed. As to whether he can make it a perfect trio remains to be seen. But Tamas Gal equally could have had a positive day. Obviously, he was unfortunately on the receiving end of a penalty himself. But today's a new day. They're going to push that to the back of their mind. But they have been proven to produce great talent, have Haas, obviously with the likes of Thomas Ronhaar, with the likes of Alfie Butcher, who is, of course, now a 3-time race winner. They've got pedigree.
I'm fascinated to see, obviously, the move for Thomas Ronhaar. There's no Kick Sauber anymore, but he moves across to Mercedes. Still no points after 2 races. I find that shocking. I can't believe it has happened, but there was incidents yesterday which we'll unpack, but it is a real surprise, Kai.
No, it definitely is, especially with the raw pace and ability that we know that Ronhaar packs. He's got that qualifying pace. We've said the start so many times over the course of this weekend, but it's such a major factor because qualifying is so important in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. Thomas Ronhaar with the lowest average qualifying position, 2.94 it was coming into this weekend, and he's had that pace in qualifying, just struggling to translate that into race pace and consistency, and those are the factors that you need to master to be at the top level of your game. Jarno Opmeer, for example, we know may not have the strongest qualifying pace. However, what he lacks in qualifying, he will make up for in the race, and that's exactly what makes him a 3-time world champion.
Earlier on, myself and Nicola here at DreamHack Birmingham, we had a sort of an F1 quiz. We gave away some Alpine hats. I've seen people coming back. We got new people getting involved in F1 sim racing, wearing their team merch now. It's beautiful to see. What have you enjoyed about this live element, Nicola?
For me, I think we're introducing more people to be able to come and actually get involved when it comes to esports. It's very easy to kind of sit back and go, oh, well, they're just playing a game, it's nice and easy. But what we've been doing over the last couple of days is letting people have a go. They're having a go on those sims and realizing how tricky it is, and we're building up a nice big audience of actually very creative people. There's some interesting cosplay around here, and honestly, fair play to all of the costumes and the work that goes in. They don't quite fit into the sims in some of their costumes, but it's lovely having a huge audience. We're having a great time. Honestly, everyone here has been fantastic.
Feels like a coffee bar down there. The Laptop Club out for the Papaya and for Ferrari. Interesting to see, in my opinion, George, as I look for that stat, Nico Longa. Obviously, previous pole back in 2021 for Nico. It's a great start for him at Williams.
Yeah, it is. And I think maybe that's the pressure being released. I think obviously with Ferrari, it's a team that are built on winning. There is a high degree of pressure. You know, Nicolas Longa might prefer his new grounds. Obviously, we're seeing Ismail Fassi, who moved from Williams. Obviously, Longa, essentially they swapped seats. But yeah, I mean, Longa here at this track, back-to-back poles in the years of 2020, 2021. He's got form around this circuit. He was spectacular, really, yesterday when you boil it down. I think it could have very easily, had it not been a 10-second penalty, he could have gone on to win the race and beaten Freddie Rasmussen. But even then, even with the penalty, they nearly made it happen. And I have to tell you, based on what we saw in the early goings of qualifying in Q1 and Q2 back at China, he was fastest in both of those sessions, showing similar levels of pace then in Q1, Q2 and Q3 in Japan yesterday. So I don't see any reason why we won't see Longuet back on top.
He had his first podium 2 days ago when we went racing in China. Ulaş Yıldırım representing Turkey here. You chatted to him, Nicola. He's actually, after 2 races, still 5th in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
It's still on. Have we not mentioned a potential champion this year?
Well, we've got to keep an eye on him because he wasn't racing yesterday. It was Yoni in his seat yesterday, and now he's back. I feel like he was here yesterday while he was watching to see how Yoni got on. But I know that they're collectively doing everything as a team, but at the same time, you can't help but want to outdrive your teammate. Let's be honest here. So I think this is Ulaş's way to really show what he's made of and to make sure that he's back in that seat for every single race coming up to kind of see how that gets on.
It will happen, won't it? Because we're talking about, you know, a title battle between Jarno and Freddie, but there will be I'd quite like to have that trophy all to myself, thank you.
And it's quite compelling because it's obviously the racing ball's considered not only in the real world of Formula One, but also in the sim racing space, a feeder team for Red Bull. So I mean, you know, could we fathom an idea that Ulaş Yıldırım could roll out as potential world champion material come the end of this season? It is possible after a spectacular result to open up the season in China. It's one of his favourite tracks as well, China. He's had form there before. Obviously, last season was a bit of a non-starter for him. He was disqualified at the end of the campaign. Did show, though, that he had the pace at China last year. And coming into this, like I said earlier on in the weekend, I spoke to both he and Yoni, and they have both, as opposed to previous years, have focused all their attention on the F1 game as opposed to maybe driving GT3 cars or other simulators as such. They are so focused and ready on the F1 game because different platforms have different nuances. The F1 game has its own intricacies which the drivers need to be prepared for, and that's what makes a great champion.
Last year, Tom Manny finished 4th around the Saka International Circuit. Kai, Istvan Pukki, he finished 2nd last year. He was on the podium. Wasn't the best start, but he gets a fresh opportunity to show what he's all about today.
Yeah, it was a tricky race in China. Just nothing seemed to go his way. Inevitably, unfortunately, retiring from the race was Istvan Pukki. So I'm interested to see how he's able to recover and kind of put that result in the back burner, at the back of the head. You don't really want to be thinking about that coming into Bahrain. Yes, at a sense that you want to improve, you want to do better, prove yourself here in Bahrain, such a crucial circuit and a circuit of champions as well. Istvan Pukki, very capable of a good result here. We're seeing Danny Berezne really putting out the first flying laps that we'll see of this session. Berezne, a champion made in himself. Not a championship that he has to his name, but also one that's glittered in gold with multiple teammates of himself taking home a championship.
Beautiful. The way you've just eloquently put that together, Kai, is fantastic. I was jotting down the fastest lap time last year to put him on pole last year. It was Ismail Fassi. Good choice, Nicola, for who you think might be on pole today with a 1:25.706. So excellent stuff, and he's capable of achieving amazing things, and we're seeing that form. He's on a steady incline.
He is. I mean, obviously, runner-up last season to Jarno Opmeer. Fassi, 7 podiums in total in his history in this sport. 1 victory, of course, that coming at Australia back last year as well. Obviously, a very different track here at Bahrain as such. You've got more, I would say more emphasis on heavy braking zones around this circuit, especially around corners such as Turn 4, and obviously the really I suppose vicious turn 9 and 10 section as well, which descends downhill. It's got more elevation and elevation around this circuit as opposed to what we see at Australia, which is generally flat, as Berezne sets the first soft tyre time of the session, and we're already in the 125s now. It's 125.9, and we'll see where Ulaş goes. But does he manage to beat Berezne? Yes, he does. So we're talking 32 thousandths now between the top 2. Here comes Nicolas Longuet, looking for a better day today. Not that yesterday was terrible. As they now cross the line, we're now running on board with Istvan Pukki on the run down towards turn 1. But all of them now on soft tyres here, Tom.
Yeah, when you were talking about soft tyres for Danny Berejny, I was like, it just immediately my mind was like, he is not a soft breaker, is he?
No.
He's broken a fair few
8 pedals, by all accounts.
We're keeping the stats up on that. What a driver Danny Berejny is over the years. And what I find fascinating for anyone who wants to get into F1 sim racing, he was a driver, set the world alight at Mercedes and being that second driver to Brendan Lee. And then all of a sudden he went away for a little bit and then came back. So he's just the OG of F1 sim racing.
Talent never leaves you, Tom. Just
Thank
goes
you.
to show. He's been there since the very beginning. Yeah, no, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, much like the likes of a Yoni Tormler, an evergreen in the world of F1 sim racing, we see Thomas Ronha, who's looking for an improved run. 4th fastest here in the initial. Obviously, this will look very differently as we make our way towards the latter stages of the session. Obviously, the track still ramping up. It's at 29 degrees. It can go as high as 30. Obviously, we are at a desert circuit that does warm up naturally. And then when you apply that rubber, that Pirelli tyre on top of the surface as well, more grip will be flown in. Rasmussen is on top at the moment, and the gap so minute, 9 thousandths between Rasmussen and Fassi at the top of the shop.
As we get into the business end of quali of Q1, just want a little quiz question for all of you on the desk. Thank you very much. Couldn't do this without you. Fantastic team. But who's going to get the bragging rights on this? Who has the fastest quali time around Bahrain in real life F1? A good point was pointed out by Ben Hawkins, team leader for Williams. He said F1 racing, F1 sim racing, it's all about the racing. So we want to be very, very clear about that. But who has the fastest quali time?
In this session?
In Bahrain.
Oh, in Bahrain.
Yeah, real life racing.
Well, I mean, I suggested the lap record was Pedro de la Rosa, so whether we're going with that, but I think you're going to divert me down another
In
real
real life racing or
Real
in
life racing.
esports?
It's just a quick, but basically, producer Ben said, why don't you throw this before throwing to the real business end? And it's caused quite a stir, and I'm regretting that massively.
No,
now.
let's talk about this more. So you mean on an actual track and not sim racing?
Yes, in Bahrain.
Okay, so
it was
my
set
money.
in 2020.
Right, 2020.
Yeah.
Lewis. Gotta
Anyone
be.
else? Anyone else? Well done, Nicola. Absolutely smashed
Thank
it.
you. That's the end of that game. Well done, everyone. We can swiftly move on from that terrible game.
George Morgan. I won't do any more terrible games. George Morgan, Cappuccini, enjoy Q1.
Thank you very much,
very
Tom
much.
Deacon. Thank you, Nicola Hume, as well. And well done on that superb answer. You were on it. You do know your stuff, don't you? Right, onwards we go then, folks. 3 minutes and 30. We're inside that now as the cars come into the pits. Update on where the times are currently stacked. 9 thousandths of a second between Frederick Rasmussen and Ismail Fassi. We have put the intermediate tyres to bed. The installation laps are over. We've had the first soft tyre times coming through, and it is Red Bull, Ferrari, Alpine, Mercedes, and Racing Bull's your top 5. But once again, a McLaren sticking its nose in the name and face of Alfie Butcher in 6 as well. Jarno Opmeer inside the top 10. Remember, he was evicted out of Q2 yesterday as well, which was certainly the biggest piece of breaking news I think we witnessed coming out of yesterday's extravaganza around Japan. Elsewhere, towards the rear, however, Nicolas Longuet, Istvan Pukki, Williams not with the most idyllic run we have seen so far. But they've got something to work with here, Kai.
Yeah, Longuet, surprised to see him so far down in 17th, as well as Istvan Pukki. We know these Williams drivers are so fast in the qualifying sessions. Nicolas Longuet with a grand total of 8 pole positions to his name, and very capable this season of making his way into the double digits, especially with the pace that we've seen him producing over the course of this weekend. This is Longuet making his way back out onto the circuit. If you didn't watch the China and F1 sim racing races, well, first of all, what are you doing? Make sure you go back and watch those races as well. But in qualifying for China, we saw Nicolas Longuet top Q1, top Q2, and just short. It was P3 for the starting grid in China. Japan, he was a little bit further down, but that race pace that we saw Longuet produce, if it wasn't for that 10-second penalty, as you mentioned, George, would have been a barnstorming victory.
And of course, if you are watching live on YouTube at the moment, we are of course live on all streaming platforms with YouTube as well as Twitch and on Facebook as well. You can of course hit that red button. That's the subscribe button on YouTube to stay up to date with whenever Formula One goes live or drops new content. And also, if you're watching on Twitch, be sure to hit the follow button as well as the Facebook page. But in the meantime, the outlaps are now fully underway. Williams currently with Longuet and Pukki towards the bottom. It's Williams blanketing out P17 and 18 right now. They'll be looking to gargantuanly improve. Elsewhere, Tom Manley, P10. Remember, we're going to lose the bottom 3 in this session, and that includes Julian Klaffenbach from Mercedes as well. The top 15 then move through to Q2, where we'll now then see 5 drivers evicted at the end of that session, where we'll have the top 10 fighting it out for pole position in Q3. There's Duncan Hoffland back again this season for Aston Martin, of course still chasing a first podium and by extension a first race win. Ishmael Fassi and Otis Lawrence retiring from the session, seemingly feeling that they are safe here in this session for now. Nicolas Longuet now on a very crucial flying lap. What do you think he's thinking right now here? It's all about the escapes, entries and exits here at Bahrain here, Kai.
Yeah, Longuet is just going to be focusing on the tarmac in front of him. We just saw him go down into turn 1. Huge braking zone, 330 kilometers an hour. The drivers slam onto the brakes and make their way into the hairpin. So easy to lock up. Longuet did a good job at controlling through there. We go through turn 3 now into the section, through sector 2, and it's going to be down into turn 8. Good hairpin there from Longuet, keeping the car under control, negotiating with himself as he's making his way around the circuit now and onto the first back straight towards T11. Turn 10, it's very easy to lose the rear end when putting your foot back on the accelerator. You need to be so smooth. You need to almost envision that you're squeezing an orange underneath your accelerator to make sure that you're not going too hard. As we now go through 12, 13, keeping an eye on what Longuet is able to do here. Aero stability is critical through this section. Just one little slide on the car, you lose all of your momentum as you now head down towards turn 15, one of the key traction zones onto the main straight. Hits his marks, and a great drive out of the corner. A poor exit here leaves you vulnerable into turn 1, but up towards the line. What can Longuet do from 17th? It's P4. That will be good enough for Q2.
Yeah, Danny Berejnay also going first fastest already, managing to topple Freddie Rasmussen. Nicolas Longuet, twice a pole sitter in the past now. 4th fastest as you saw. Duncan Hoffland up to 5th as well. Tamas Gal into 6th. Isfan Pookie. Oh my goodness, that might not be enough. It's not enough, surely. He's down in 17th as Klaffenbach moves up to 14th fastest. Jake Benham, first time in the podium places for McLaren. It was also his 3rd podium in F1 sim racing as a whole. He's green in the first 2 sectors and looking for a huge exit coming out of turn 15, but he's invalidated the lap. Oh my goodness, Benham is out. Jake Benham out of Q1 here at Bahrain, and Pookie is going with him. Joris Krozen looking to improve but can't. He's in 16th place. That is all she wrote. It's Alpine's very own Danny Berejnay, fastest in Q1.
All of the McLaren crew here up in arms. It's head in hands moments for everybody here in papaya colors. Jake Benham was looking to have a good enough lap to get himself up into the top 15, and that one mistake out of the final corner, pushing the car just a little bit too hard, wasn't able to get the traction and drive out. 4 wheels over the white lines. There's no arguing that. Jake Benham pays the cost for pushing over the limit.
Berejnay fastest by 33 thousandths of a second against Freddie Rasmussen. I can tell you they were within 91 thousandths down to P7. That was Jarno Opmeer. So Opmeer back on the pace, it would seem. Great spell for Duncan Hoffland as well in 6th place for Aston Martin. Tom Manley also featuring inside the top 5. Nicolas Longuet on the pace as well. Went from the bottom to the top 4 quintessentially. So great effort from Nicolas Longuet on his recovery as well. John Evans into Q2 as well.
Yeah, great job there from John Evans. Improvement over the weekend. That's what we love to see here. That Evans is now getting into his skin and not feeling the pressure as much as the weekend goes on, feeling more comfortable in these simulators, and it's showing in his results as well. Through to Q2, not far off the top 10 either. He's still within a chance of getting himself into that Q3 position. It was a 26.017 that got him 14th position. P10 was a 25.938, so mere margins.
Quite a surprise to see Joris Krozen bow out, 21 thousandths away from safety. He has been so good in qualifying over the last couple of days. All of a sudden, though, on the final day of this first round of events, it slips away here at Bahrain, Kai.
Well, anything can happen here under the floodlights, and especially with the pressure of a live crowd and 50,000 tickets sold in attendance to this DreamHack event at the Birmingham NEC. You have a lot of eyes on you, and you need to perform when everybody's watching.
Well, I can now tell you, folks, that we can catch up with one of our eliminees. It's Nicola Hume with Jake Benham.
Yep, I'm here with Jake at the moment. Now, I was sat in the crowd, Jake, as soon as that last lap was happening, and there was a "oh" from the entire crowd. Oh, I was kind of sat with a lot of the McLaren lot as well, to be fair. They were quite loud. But how are you feeling after that?
Yeah, it's obviously not a ideal situation, but I knew coming into this one it was going to be a big struggle. But if there's one to have a struggle at, I would want it to be this one. Just knowing because the race is usually a mess, so there's always a chance to gain a lot of positions.
Usually a mess. Tell me more things.
Well, in previous years, there's always been a few strategies, different strategies, alternative as well. So we'll see what we can do later, and yeah, go from here.
I'm quite liking the quiet confidence coming from you, although you did walk up to me with shook hands, and you're quite sweaty and clammy right now. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, it's even when you're not even doing many laps under the pressure, it's quite intense. So yeah.
Well, Jake, go and sit back down in your rig. Thank you very much for joining me, and go for your strategy for the very messy race later on. George, back to you. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you very much, Nicola. This sim racing lark is certainly very sweaty stuff indeed. And Jake Benham suffering, unfortunately, on this occasion. He will be starting from the back of the grid as we move through to the race coming up later on this afternoon. Not what he probably would have wanted in following on from that gallant podium yesterday, and his first for McLaren, his third in total, of course, in his career in F1 sim racing. But others, slightly different. Danny Berejnay back on top, showing that the old dog can still pick up some new tricks.
Well, using the experience to his advantage. And I don't blame Jake Benham for being a little bit sweaty. It is very warm in here. I've even had to unzip my jumper. It's getting a bit warm up here on the podium, so I can't imagine what it's like sat in those simulators right now. We heard Jake Benham talking about strategy. Although it is qualifying, strategy is going to be a big thing coming into this race. He said Bahrain, we're going to see alternate strategies. We're going to see drivers trying to do something a little bit different to gain an advantage. Now, on paper, mediums to hard tyres will look like the fastest. We'll see the alternate, though, hards to mediums as well from some of the drivers. And then, if they're feeling a little bit spicy in the teams and the drivers, soft to hards. Why not? It's possible. Soft tyres, best grip, best performance, fastest tyre. If you're looking for a good first stint, like Jake Benham will, could we possibly see him start on the soft?
And it would be in the first stint that we would see that as well. Now, I was talking to some of the drivers, because you might remember, Kai, we were discussing this yesterday, and I made a point of suggesting that it might be smart for a few drivers at Japan to have started on the Red Bull compound of tyre. And having spoken to the drivers, none of them did it, by the way, but having spoken to some of the drivers this morning, they've looked back at it and said, in reality, some of us should have tried the soft tyre.
Well, I don't see why not, because in these races, when all of the cars are gaggled together, everyone's so close, and we have that DRS train, it's going to be so crucial to have any small advantage that you can. And if you're able to have a good opening stint, push those soft tyres as far as you can, although the longevity is not going to be great on that compound because of the abrasive desert asphalt that we have here in Bahrain, I wouldn't be surprised if that advantage in the early doors, gain a few positions. Track position is going to be crucial, like it always is here in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. But starting far back, you may as well try something different.
Absolutely right. Well, we now move through into Q2, and this is where we'll see the top 15 coming out of Q1, contesting for a top 10 pole shootout position for Q3. Tom Manley back again, of course, behind the wheel. He's going to be on top of the classification tree as we're seeing it right now. There's Otis Lawrence, though, in the bottom right of your screen, making his way uphill. New championship leader. Do you think that adds any pressure at all, Kai, onto today's festivities?
Well, he seemed quite calm when we heard from him earlier on. I don't think he's too worried. Me and you, George, briefly caught him on his way in this morning. A big smile and a big grin.
He seemed comfortable, didn't he?
Yeah, he seemed very, very content with his ability, content with the position that he's in terms of the team. Obviously, clearly happy to be racing with that Alpine team. Seems like a good crew that he has around him supporting and lifting him up. So we'll see what we're able to get out of the youngster Otis Lawrence. one of the youngest drivers on the grid, 17 years of age.
Yeah, of course, not quite as young as Julian Klaffenbach, though,
Yep.
this season. We have to point that out, but still, more to come. Want to talk a little bit about Thomas Ronhaar as well. We alluded
Yep.
to the penalty from yesterday's race. Coming into this season, before we even got started in terms of any racing or indeed any qualifying, Thomas Ronhaar with the lowest average qualifying position percentage, standing at 2.94, I should say. So you're talking the top 3 places, generally speaking. That same form hasn't really existed in the first 2 rounds of the championship so far. Do you think it could recover for round 3?
Recovery can happen instantly in this championship. We've seen it from China just to Japan. That's just the span of 24 hours, and 24 hours can change everything in this scenery. George, I know that when you were waiting for your morning coffee in the Starbucks line, obviously other coffee brands
Hang
are
on.
available.
Herbal tea.
Yeah,
mint
herbal
tea.
Ooh, look at that. He's branching out a bit, going for something a little bit different. That's what he needs to fuel his amazing commentary and great facts that he brings to the broadcast. Maybe I should start drinking a little bit more herbal tea. But yes, you had to catch up with Thomas Ronhaar earlier. How's he feeling? What's the mindset? What was he saying?
Well, he certainly feels a lot of learnings need to be taken. And he asked, and I said to him, listen, can I be brutally honest with you, Thomas? I said, the pace obviously isn't quite there as it has been over the last couple of years. And he acknowledged that. He said, you're totally right. And he said there have been strategy calls that we should have made that we didn't do. Of course, some of the moves that he made were reckless. I said on commentary at the time, making the move that he did going in towards turn 11 at Japan was a little hair him, scare him, and no doubt the stewards were going to get involved. And where did that lead? A time penalty. So therefore, he needs to try and drum up something. His explanation to me on that, by the way, was the fact that everyone was on fairly equal measure. There wasn't really any chances of him to gain without making those moves. So he felt that he had to go aggressive at that point in the race.
I also don't blame him in a sense. If he knows himself and feels that he's lacking a little bit of pace, desperation, impatience is always going to creep in, and Ronhaar just trying to make the best of a bad situation, going for that overtake. Yes, it didn't work out in his favor this time, and also the stewards weren't too happy with it, but Ronhaar clearly putting in the effort to try and right his wrongs and make improvements where possible. However, I don't feel that's the way to do it.
No, not at all. Well, in this session, first laps being ushered in. Thomas Ronhaar is the fastest man, but we've still got plenty of other drivers to set laps so far. Few of them not continuing on their runs to open up the session. We generally won't see those best times until much later. Tom Manley is not going to feel the lap time just yet. We will, of course, expect to see better than the one that Thomas Ronhaar has laid out. It is a 1:26.064. He is a 10th plus quicker than Freddie Rasmussen at the moment. Those two, of course, have such a contentious relationship from years gone by. I remember in his first season, I think it was, for Thomas Ronhaar, getting crashed into the barriers at Mexico in a very fraught and contentious fight with the Great Dane.
Well, let's hope that's not the situation this time round. They were able to squash that beef off the circuit. That's the best thing about F1
Well, I think they did enough
here.
on the circuit, I think, to squash it. Someone got squashed anyway, I'll tell you that much. But we're watching Ulas Yildirim now on an out lap too. What can this man do? Very, very close to taking a pole position once again. Of course, back at China, finishing just behind Freddie Rasmussen, back in his one-lap pace form. In fact, it was Freddie's first time taking a pole position inside the first round of an F1 Sim Racing World Championship campaign. So new levels were broken here this season. The wry smile on the face of Jarno Opmeer in the bottom right of screen. Now that is menacing. Obviously feeling that there's more in the locker today. Good effort on his part though, because he was briefly outside of the points in yesterday, but after the penalties were distributed, it was a P10 for the Flying Dutchman.
Not the way he would have been wanting to score points for Jarno Opmeer. It wasn't a smile on the face yesterday. Whenever we saw the pace cam on Jarno Opmeer,
it was a slight smirk today.
Yeah, very different, complete opposite to yesterday. It was a very straight face, laser focus in the race in Suzuka. Suzuka was an outstanding quality of racing from all of the drivers here, putting on a spectacle. Ulas Yildirim was watching from the sidelines, I'm sure enjoying some of the great food here at the NEC, but also learning from his competitors. It's sometimes great to be able to step aside and watch from a standpoint, as he can watch every single driver and not just his teammate, to see what they are doing differently, where they are faster than him, and what driving style he can possibly adapt into his own to up his level of his performance as well.
Absolutely right. Well, now Ulas Yildirim starting yet another lap. We are coming down into the final 7.5 minutes of action. Still enough for 2 fast runs, including the one they're on right now. They will, of course, take a slight tender break in between this one and the next one, but we'll soon see how the lap times are stacked, because certain drivers haven't yet registered bankers. In fact, the majority have not set bankers just yet, that being 10 drivers that are now looking to make their way around the circuit. I can tell you that on hot laps right now, Danny Berejnay, Duncan Hoffland, John Evans looking to move through into Q3, which would be a truly phenomenal fight back from the British driver. We've got Otis Lawrence, Ismail Fassi, Jarno Opmeer, Ulas Yildirim, who we're currently seeing on screen as well, the Turkish sensation, looking to lead Red Bull, Racing Bulls to the top, the Red Bull Junior team, as he now flies up through out of the apex at turn 11. Through towards turn 12, the incline then sends you round towards turn 13, where you'll double back on yourself pretty much, and then down towards 14, where you'll reach the double corner, in fact, because turn 15 lingers just after it. Here comes now Ulas Yildirim. Let's see whether he can punch another hole in terms of delta against Thomas Ronhaar, this time around, hooking the car around this final series of right-handed curbs, keeping caution not to tread over that white line on the left-hand side of the circuit. Here comes Ulas, does go fastest, 4/10 quicker, as expected, against Thomas Ronhaar. Danny Berejnay, fastest in Q1. He's now second fastest here in Q2 so far. Duncan Hoffland sits third now for now. Tamas Gal down in 8th place. Here comes John Evans, looking to come around the final 2 corners here, this time with 6 minutes and 10 to go. The Scuderia Ferrari now launching its way up towards the line, and it will be a P4 for John Evans, gargantuanly improving. Otis Lawrence second fastest. It's Alpine 2 and 3 inside the top 3 placings at the moment. Ismail Fassi, no time set yet, looking to register his first banker. Let's see where he will go as he crosses the line, splits the 2 top drivers. Ulas Yildirim and Otis Lawrence now separated, as Longuet, twice a pole sitter here before, looks to register his name at the top once again. Here comes the Frenchman now, Longuet, not quite able to take P1, but Williams sits second, as now Ulas Yildirim still holds on, but they're matching deltas, the 2 of them. Longuet very nearly matching delta. It's actually 2/10. It actually expanded coming out of the final sector. Here comes Tamas Gal now across the line. He goes 13th fastest. Freddie Rasmussen goes first fastest himself as well. Freddie back and on fire here at the closing stages of Q2. 5 minutes to go, and we're seeing the remaining first flying laps from some of these drivers. In the drop zone, we currently have Jarno Opmeer, Alfie Butcher, John Evans, Tamas Gal and Ruben Pedreño, but they still have one more run remaining.
Rasmussen topping the order and doing what he wasn't able to yesterday by 200ths of a second. Of course, he was able to get that performance done in qualifying, but not in the race. A retirement around Suzuka it was for Freddie Rasmussen, but early confidence with a 125.636 on the board. Ulas Yildirim and Nicolas Longuet are following in suit with the exact same lap time, down to the 1,000th of a second. How amazing is that, George?
Very, very, very strong, I have to say. But the thing is, Jarno's in a little bit of trouble here. Can't really afford to have back-to-back Q2 exits here right now. What are your thoughts on that, Kai?
Well, it would be a big surprise. It was a big surprise to us yesterday to see Jarno Opmeer go out of the qualifying session. It was in P11, and only by 100ths of a second that we saw Jarno Opmeer drop out of the second qualifying session and not make it through to Q3. 4 minutes still on the clock. Plenty of time for Jarno Opmeer to get another lap on the board. He's still got that final stint. No sweat, no beads of sweat are yet forming on the forehead of Jarno Opmeer, so clearly not too worried about his position in the session right now. But with a fresh set of softs on the car, some fresh rubber, some extra grip, and some more pace and determination, I expect to see Jarno Opmeer in Q3.
Well, I'm sure he'll have the support of the famed Pogmeer Academy, who are his fan base, of course, back on home soil, where of course he does a lot of live streaming, content creation, and obviously is really flourished in the 3 world championships that he has obtained. Statistically, in terms of number of world championships, the greatest driver in F1 sim racing history. Though you can make an argument on Freddie Rasmussen's part that just due to the sheer win statistics, Freddie of course chasing 18 wins as a driver, but also as of the 2 races we have witnessed, of course the 2 qualifying sessions we have witnessed, he could be on for pole number 20 now this season at the end of Q3. Obviously we're not there yet, but we're just drip feeding these little nuggets here at this stage.
What a number and what an achievement that would be as well. The highest points total of any driver to compete in the F1 Sim Racing Championship. Over 1,000 points scored in his campaign. Freddie Rasmussen is a force to be reckoned with, especially when he's pumping out lap times like this in qualifying. Ulas Zildjian feels like he's done enough to make his way through into Q3, and I'll agree with him on that one. An outstanding lap time of a 25.662. He retires from the session, opts not to use any more sets of tyres that he doesn't have to, and saves them for Q3 if he feels he needs that extra run and that extra push to try and get himself in the higher qualifying position. Qualifying always so important in this championship, and around Bahrain, I'd expect nothing the less.
What are your thoughts, Kai, in terms of eliminees that we could be seeing through here? Obviously, the drivers now making their way out, ready, preparing for their final runs here in Q2. Every driver now making their way out, obviously furiously getting the tyres into a suitable temperature. 29 degrees, the current track temperature, of course. We are at a very warm circuit, 23 degrees in the air, 1 minute and 40 to go. Your bottom 5, Kai, who do you think?
Oh, that's a horrible question.
It is a horrible question,
George.
But we love predictions here, don't we?
You want me to wish the worst on these drivers? No.
We love it.
No, that's
we rally on despair, Kai.
Oh, we'll have a little look through whilst these drivers are preparing themselves for their final push laps. Ruben Pedreño currently in 15th. It was a great qualifying performance from him yesterday and a great race performance. I think Pedreño is on really good form. You can see him on our screens there, the driver in the bright green Aston Martin colours. I expect to see him in Q3 coming off the back of momentum that he has carrying from China and also Japan as well. Thomas Gao and John Evans in the bottom 5 right now. John Evans still finding his feeting in the F1 sim racing world. It would be lovely to see him in a Q3.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Berejnay is going to be the first man to lay down the final lap time. Ruben Pedreño now flying down through towards turn 1 at the moment. All of them now looking to bring their out laps to an end. Pedreño in the mean green Aston Martin now venturing into turn 1.
Now, George, I'm going to be the mean one. I know I completely dodged your question, but you thought of the question. I feel that you should answer it.
Spell reflect. Heinous of you, Kai Bikini. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you're John Evans, you're looking to avoid it. If he can get a Q3, that would be massive for Ferrari. The likelihood is probably not that high, though. Obviously, stepping in for Barry Burman late on, but he is a vast talent, is John Evans, as now Pedreño makes his way down through towards the heavy braking zone. You've got to be cautious around turns 9 and 10, though, here, Kai.
Yeah, there is so much at stake, especially around this ruthless Bahrain circuit. So many heavy braking zones. You're not on the brakes for long around these circuits. 20% of the lap is spent on the actual brake pedal. However, those times you are on the brake pedal is so crucial. You need to pinpoint your braking zone, hit the brakes hard, trail brake off into the corner as you wean off that brake pressure. Little bit of a coast mid-corner to help rotate as Ruben Pedreño is doing exactly that. So close to an invalidation there.
Yeah, he's looking strong, Pedreño. That middle sector is indeed purple. Danny Berejnay has already crossed the line and gone second fastest. That's an improvement from 4th from Danny Berejnay. Not quite, though. The P1 from back in Q1. Treacherously close to the white line there for Pedreño now as he comes across the line. Goes fastest in the initial by 1,000th of a second. There, Ruben Pedreño. Purple in the middle, though, for John. Pedreño still hanging on there as now more times come through. Otis behind his teammate in 4th fastest. Ismail Fassi launched himself into P1, a former pole sitter from last season at this circuit. Here comes Tamas Gal chasing for bigger results. John Evans on the cusp as well. Maybe he can get through. Freddie Rasmussen back on top as well. He makes his way through now with Longuet in 2nd place. Here comes Jarno Opmeer looking to survive once again. No! Jarno is out! Back-to-back eliminations in Q2 for the Flying Dutchman. Heartbreak for him, but it's fast. Furiously fast, Freddie Rasmussen back on top by 15,000ths of a second. 18,000 separate the top 3 with Ismail Fassi in 3rd. Also a former pole sitter around this circuit. Ruben Pedreño, what a display in 4th place as well. Danny Berejnay, back-to-back top 5s in the first 2 qualifying sessions here today. Q1, Q2, respectfully. Alfie Butcher, 6th fastest ahead of Otis Lawrence. Ulas Zildjian back in Q3 as well, with Tom Manley making it a Racing Bulls 8 and 9. They've got 2 cars moving through to the final session. And then P10 for Thomas Ronhaar, who just about saved his bacon. And he's going to be vibing for a potential pole spot as well. We're losing as well. John Evans has been dispatched. Just look at that, 700ths away from safety, John Evans. You can make that half a tenth as well for Tamas Gal. 43 thousandths for Jarno Opmeer away from safety. Duncan Hofland, 34 thousandths. They're all within a tenth. Julian Klaffenbach just could not quite get going. The Austrian rooted down at the bottom of the eliminees in 15th place. Ever so tight, it has to be said, but really drama-fueled. Opmeer out in Q2, the reigning champion, 3-time champion, 2 qualifying sessions running.
Well, we panned the camera to him after that session, and Opmeer, I think, in as much shock as us, just not able to produce any emotion, in a pure state of shock. Now he leans back, now it sinks in. Jarno Opmeer out of Q2 once again. Is it a fall from grace? Is it a slip? Inability? Is it just a moment? We'll have to wait and see as the season goes on, but Jarno Opmeer not on the form that we would have expected.
I'm wondering now whether we do see discussions around soft tyres for the start of the race coming up. Certainly as far as the Q2 eliminees are concerned. I'm talking about this because Thomas Ronhaar observed to me today that if you go for the overcut and try and go long, it doesn't work in their eyes. It's all about the undercut. So does that automatically instigate, right, try and box ASAP, get on a faster race tyre, that being a hards, and start meaning on the softs?
Well, the undercut is so strong here around Bahrain, and you'll see that for the majority of drivers in the traffic. The overcut is possible, but it's not easy at all. You need to be in clean air, manage your degradation, and if you can tick all of those boxes, which is not always going to happen here in F1 sim racing, then you can possibly go for the overcut. But I think we'll see the majority of the grid going for the undercut with just how strong it is here around the Sakhir Grand Prix circuit.
Well, whilst we wait for Q3, Nicola is standing by with John Evans.
I am. Thank you very much, George. Yes, I'm stood here with John. John, this has been a tricky weekend for you because you were kind of thrown into this very last minute. So I don't think that you should be standing here feeling disappointed right now.
I'm a bit disappointed. The pace is there, just a silly mistake in the last sector. Of course, I'm in a better position to fight for points in the race, and yeah, hopefully can make something happen.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to do it. I mean, watching your progression over the weekend, it looks like you're getting stronger because obviously you're kind of using this to get more practice in, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think every session that goes by, I'm more confident, I see more time, I'm more comfortable in the rig. So yeah, it's just building blocks.
Well, it's been really nice for us to see you actually in the rig and actually I genuinely think doing a very good job. So I wanted to bring you out and chat to you to kind of pick you up a little bit because being thrown in this situation, being a last minute step in over the weekend, that's not easy.
No, it's not, but I know I've got more to give, so hopefully I can prove it.
I caught a smile at the end there. I caught it. We got it on camera. So I'm taking it. I'm having it. Go and sit back down, John. Thank you very much. George, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Obviously, John Evans a little despondent. The pace was there, Kai. Just could not quite make it happen on circuit. So there is room for improvement, though. He can still do something with the strategy. You'll have to have a very good early jump off the line this time. But the possibilities are there for John Evans. I suppose he'll at least take solace from the fact that he is not off the pace.
Experience pays aplenty, and that's exactly what John Evans just needs to take into account. He's new into the F1 sim racing scene. You can't always expect to hit the ground running because of how competitive and how difficult it is to rub up with some of the best drivers in the world as well. Nicola is actually putting out some surprises for me. We had some surprise departures from Q2, but Nicola was some of the biggest surprises of the weekend. Able to get a smile out of John Evans there. And also, I don't have 100% confirmation, but I think we all witnessed it. A half smile from Freddie Rasmussen.
There was a half smile, and he's looking strong again, is Freddie. And this is why I predicted him for potential pole position again, because every time Freddie faces adversity, watch with interest at his next appearance in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, because he's always out to improve. He doesn't like leaving it on a low. Well, we're here now in Q3. This is where the fight for pole will take place. We have got 10 drivers to take you through. RB have got 2 contenders in this one, including former F1 Esports Challengers champion Tom Manley, and also Ulas Azildarim, your runner-up from China, also finishing second fastest in qualifying by that same token as well. Ruben Pedreño, though, is going to kick us off here in this session. Now flying down through towards turn 1, hooking the car around now as he looks to make his way through the first apex and then through the second before he reaches the third, and then a slightly heavy braking patch down at turn 4.
The 2 RBs and the 2 Alpines fill up 4 of the 10 positions here in the final qualifying positions. Those being Tom Manley, Ulas Olazildrim coming back after his break yesterday. Also with Otis Lawrence, yesterday's race victor, and Danny Beresnay back in Q3 once again. 8 minutes and 40 seconds remaining down on the clock. The time is ticking down quickly, so not long for the drivers to assert their lap times on the boards and get themselves comfortable with the track. Do expect faster lap times in this session, as track development is a key factor in this F1 game, and track development will have been taking place as the drivers will have been putting down more rubber and more grip onto the circuit as the sessions have been going on. You may be noticing a few more black lines as the rubber running off on the circuit, some darker racing lines as well, where the drivers have been negotiating their way around the track limits. But around the final bend and onto the home straight, Ruben Pedreño straddling the curb on exit out of turn 15 though. DRS enabled, pushing up to the line. It's going to be a first lap on the board there from Ruben Pedreño. Fastest of a session, only driver to complete the time yet.
Yep, 1:25.896 for Ruben Pedreño to push Aston Martin to the top in the initial. There's a little bit of traffic though here in the final sector. Nicolas Longuet just looking to get some freedom. Obviously there is no slipstreaming here in this qualifying session. They do have some ghosting activated, so they don't have to worry necessarily, but obviously it's just really for concentration matters that they like to give themselves a little bit of the breathing space from cars around, because there's nothing worse than obviously seeing a car standing on your racing line as they are equally going around for flying laps in qualifying, or indeed maybe even out laps, as now we see Danny Beresnay make his way through the S's. Purple inside the first sector, so has ripped that away from Ruben Pedreño in the initial, as he now breaks down in towards the heavy braking zone coming out of turn 8. Now firing back onto the gas. So now heading downhill once again. Turns 9 and 10 to come. This is where things get rather tricky, but Danny Beresnay ever so well equipped. Remember, fastest in the first session. Q1 was his bag. Could not quite replicate the same thing in Q2, but he won't be too worried about that because he's made his way into Q3 nonetheless. The Alpine climbing the ladder now through towards turn 12 out of turn 11. We'll hook the car around now instantaneously from the left to the right, and then another right-hander to come. And good to see a car obviously giving him some clear room just so he can focus on his racing line. It is green inside the middle, not quite enough for purple. Coming across to the left-hand side, giving him as much width as possible for the final 2 corners here on this racetrack. He hooks the Alpine around and looking to knock Ruben Pedreño off his perch at provisional P1. Here comes now the Hungarian, Danny Beresnay. Across the line he will go, and certainly no time listed just yet because he must have invalidated, making his way around the lap. Otis Lawrence now coming around the final corner, looking to buzz in an improvement himself. 7th fastest currently in your classification. The championship leader as of the win yesterday goes fastest, a 1:25.498. Ulas Azildarim second fastest with a 1:25.609 to match. Pedreño in the pits watching all of this unfold as Nicolas Longuet, who could have potentially snatched a win had he had broken the 10-second gap yesterday, unable to do so. 4th fastest, much like his race result from yesterday, and that's been ushered backwards to 5th because Freddie Rasmussen has gone fastest. Here comes Ismail Fassi. He goes first fastest as well in response, as now Thomas Ronhaar makes his way up towards the line. 2 green sectors, nothing in purple, as now he opens up the DRS. He will cross the line, but only enough for 5th fastest, as Challengers champion Tom Manley can only go 7th.
Yep, great first laps there on the board. Ismail Fassi, as we mentioned, last year's pole sitter on this circuit and looking to do it back to back. I don't see why the Ferrari driver would be able to do so. He has some tall orders and he has some harsh competition. Freddie Rasmussen setting a great lap as well. Otis Lawrence, yesterday's race winner. There's so many drivers that could be on top of this timing table by the time the clock strikes 0. But the times that are on the board right now have really impressed me, George, as Ismail Fassi and Freddie Rasmussen both quicker already than the fastest lap time in Q2.
Absolutely right. We're seeing some of the better times at the moment. Top 3, 700ths of a second. That is the gap that separates them all. Otis Lawrence making up that 700ths of a second, in 3rd place at this stage. Ulas Azildarim just in behind. Once again, a promising display from Ulas, 2nd row of the grid. If he stays here, more in line from what we saw in China. And bear in mind, he's only had 2 starts in F1 Sim Racing because he didn't race yesterday.
2 starts and 2 impressive performances, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a surprise to me that we saw Ulash take the step back yesterday in Japan off the back of such a strong performance in China. It was a P2 on the road where we saw Ulash finish. 18 points was taken into his championship back pocket, helping out the team as well. Took a back seat for China, had a bit of a refresh day, a bit of a breather, and was able to negotiate and watch along with everything. Back on top form though, no signs of fatigue.
What is interesting though is that team planning on when they send the drivers out and when they position them to go out and compete in certain events, it's planned months in advance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do wonder whether they could have made an exception in Ulash's case and bump him in, but obviously not to be. They were fixed on that format. And with Ulash, given his pace, he has to be considered potential title contender material based on the results alone.
100%, and I think you would be silly if you didn't agree with you there, George. Ulash, I'm sure, on the night of China, would have been begging to the team. He'd say, please, please, please let me race in Suzuka. He knows he has the pace. He's on good form at this event. We were speaking to him earlier. We spoke to him on the ground with Nicola as well. Ulash is loving the environment here at DreamHack, just soaking up the atmosphere and the energy from the crowd and everyone else attending this event. Some drivers might feel the pressure from that and start to crumble. Ulash is just taking it in a stride.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for us, Kai, stood on this stage, we look behind us and there's obviously people littered in the seats observing these races at it. There's quite an empty space on the floor, just separating the drivers from the crowd themselves. Just being sat in this position with the lights blaring down upon you, the tension is mighty, it's massive. You know, that obviously plays a factor in trying to optimize your outright pace.
Well, it's not often that F1 sim racing has an open environment like this and has onlookers watching these drivers. A lot of the drivers will be used to racing at home, racing in a closed environment where they don't have the pressure of eyes being on them and they can just focus on themselves and on their race. Here at DreamHack, though, that is a completely different question. And I don't know about you, George, I might be a little bit biased here, but I think F1 sim racing has one of the greatest stage designs. We have a beautiful setup here.
We certainly do. As you can see, the drivers now out on outlaps as we speak. Ismail Fassi, of course, former pole sitter around the circuit, though that was with Williams, of course, the team based at Grove. Slightly different occasion this time, with him being in the Scarlet Red of Ferrari. And the Tifosi will be hoping for a better result this time, trying to promote himself from the second place end result from yesterday's outing at Japan. Well, to go pole once again in back-to-back years would mean a lot for Ismail Fassi. Currently 19 thousandths ahead of Freddie Rasmussen. This is the last chance now for these drivers to lay down their laps here, Kai. Obviously now the temperature, trying to build up the carcass temperature, the inlet temperature in those tyres, vital to ensure you have optimal grip heading through on that final run.
Yeah, grip is going to be a question that we ask ourselves and a point that we return to so many times during the race. So prepare yourselves for those fun conversations that we will have later on in the race. That kicks off at 3:30 UK time. Danny Beresnay is now on a fast lap. 40 seconds ticking down on the clock. Beresnay going to be one of the first to cross the line and punch in that final lap time, or also his first lap time. Beresnay is not leaving anything up to question at all, darting his way around the circuit now. We'll keep an eye on the sectors that Danny Beresnay is able to put on the circuit right now, as he's just making his way out of Sector 1 into Sector 2 now. One of the fastest and flowing sections, so technical. Stop and start for these drivers. You're on the accelerator, harsh on the brakes, on the accelerator, harsh on the brakes once again, and Danny Beresnay adapting to that where possible, using all of the track available to him as he makes his way on the entry into turn 11. 3.5 tenths up on his delta. That will be on his invalidated lap time. Purple Sector 2, just to secure that as well. Has a look over to his teammate, checks on what his Alpine counterpart is doing, down into his final corner. This is so important to get a good run up onto the line. No squirming from the rear end, just within the limits is Danny Beresnay up towards the line. DRS open, P2 for the moment. 4 thousandths of a second off provisional pole position. Can anyone topple Ismail Fassi?
We'll find out now very shortly. Of course it is at the moment. Danny Berejnay second fastest by 5 thousandths of a second. It looks like now as Ulas Yildirim comes across the line. He goes first fastest in the initial great lap listed by the Racing Bulls driver, looking to go one better than he did at China. Here comes Otis Lawrence, your now championship leader as of yesterday's race at Japan. Can the Welshman do something special once again? Yes, he can! It's Otis Lawrence, first fastest. Freddie goes third in the initial. Ismail Fassi back with a bang. He goes first fastest for Ferrari, much like he did a season ago. Nicholas Longuet into third place. Williams very nearly getting back-to-back poles. Alfie Butcher across the line. He goes seventh, and it's Freddie Rasmussen just ahead of Ruben Pedreño. Thomas Ronhaar, second row, in fourth place as well. Danny Berejnay listed P10, despite the early lap posted, being in second place. Tom Manley just in front of him in P9. It's Ismail Fassi, your fastest man, his fourth pole position in his F1 sim racing career, and his first for Ferrari.
Fourth pole position, 2 of them coming at this Sakhir Grand Prix circuit. The last one was last year in 2025. Then it was in the blue Williams colours, now in the scarlet red Ferrari. Doesn't matter the team, doesn't matter the environment. Ismail Fassi is strong on pace. Great lap there from the Spaniard to get himself on pole position by 200ths of a second, and you can see what it means to him, the passion, the energy embraced by his team, as well as everybody in the Ferrari crew is so happy with that result. Otis Lawrence, for a moment, looking like he was going to start from the best seat in the house. Second will suffice for the Welshman. Can he go on to win the race, or will Ismail Fassi do what he couldn't last year and convert a pole position into a race win?
The Knights in shining scarlet are back on the top step once more. They have a new champion leading their team by the name of Ismail Fassi. Surely more to come from this young man. We saw the second place yesterday at Japan. Obviously a teaser potentially for greater things to come. Danny Berejnay, he must have been wondering what on earth happened towards the very end, but the lap times were furious. I can tell you that we're just talking between a 1/10 and a quarter to a 1/10 and a half between P10 to P1. Also 98 thousandths from P7 through towards P1 as well. The top 7 all within a 1/10 of a second. Ruben Pedreño in that P7 spot, of course, 98 thousandths off Ismail Fassi's time. Otis Lawrence, though, second fastest. The Welshman could still do something from there. Of course, will be alongside Fassi, leading through towards the Turn 1 apex. Remember, he was celebrating hard yesterday after a terrific win at Japan. That gave him the championship lead. Can he hold on to it, though, come the end of play today? We will, of course, soon find out. Nicholas Longuet is not out of it, though, Kai. Third fastest.
No, once again, a great performance from Nicholas Longuet. We know he's strong on his one-lap pace. We know he's strong in qualifying and proving that once again. But it's a trifecta of third-position starts for Nicholas Longuet. It was a third-position start in China, third-position start in Suzuka, and now in Bahrain as well. Nicholas Longuet, maybe number 3 is his lucky number.
Well, we can find out a little. We can find out a little more. We've got our pole sitter standing by with Nicola Hume.
Ismail Fassi, that was really nice actually, because just before you came on camera, Aston Martin coming up to congratulate you. How on earth do you feel, Ismail?
If I'm honest with you, I think that was the worst pole up I've done in my life.
Okay. Let's talk about that then, please.
I just messed up sector 1 crazy, like a lot. And yeah, just did good sector 2 and decent sector 3, but I wasn't really happy with my lap. But already after turn 4, I was like, it's not going to be in pole, maybe top 3, but not pole. But in the end, yeah, I made it work on sector 2 and 3.
I mean, I know it's different to last year, but you still beat your own time by 4/10 from last year when you got pole.
To be fair, last season was quite unexpected for me to get pole around here. This season, we knew we were quick. I had to put the lap together, and I managed it. I was nearly not going to do it, but yeah, I'm happy with the result. An extra point for me, and we will see how the race goes.
Now, I'm going to be honest, he's very cool, calm and collected during this interview, but I did actually see, as soon as it happened, got out of the rig and did this. Did a little boogie there, didn't you, Ishmael? Do you want to give us another replay for the camera?
You want me to do that?
Amazing. Back to you, George.
Brilliant moment there to watch for Ismail Fassi. George, I was watching down with the crowd. It was brilliant to hear both of you bringing their expert qualifying commentary. And you can see what it means to him. He messed up, wasn't happy with it. One of his worst. He's still on pole. That's back-to-back poles for him. It's a real sign of him just warming up as this competition's gone on.
Well, I think so. I think we had a little precursor with the second place yesterday come the end of the race, and now he's got a great chance from the front row of the grid. Of course, he's not alone, though. Otis Lawrence will be there to give him a little bit of hassle. I found it incredible how he came out. The audacity, me and Kai looked at each other. He came out and said, I actually messed up that lap.
Yeah.
It was a shocking lap. Shocking in the context that the top 7 were within a tenth of a second, 98 thousandths between them.
I thought when Otis Lawrence crossed the line, at that point it was just 700th off the speed he had. I mean, it was just remarkable. He thought he'd got pole, but starting out in the front row, just excellent to see. At Q1, shocked maybe after getting a podium yesterday in Japan was Jake Benham going out in Q1.
Yeah, big shock. I'm not sure what you thought, Kai, but definitely didn't look comfortable out there.
No, not at all. It was a shake of the head and not too happy. We also saw a shake of the head from his teammate of Alfie Butcher later on. That was the mistake that put him out of the qualifying session, pushing way too hard, carrying too much speed through turn 15, and the car just washes out over the rumble strip, and he was a passenger at that point, just had to commit to the throttle and pray that he stayed within those white lines. Unfortunate for him, he didn't. Across the line was Ferrari driver John Evans. For a moment, it looked like he would make his way through to Q3, with P10 being the time that he set, but unfortunately just being dropped out as well. Now crunch time hit pretty quickly in Q3, and it really did switch up the order. For a moment, Danny Beresnay set a blistering lap time. Me and you, George, both looked at each other and thought that was a great time from Beresnay and would have been good enough to put himself in a nice position for later on. Otis Lawrence, after that lap, we saw a little bit of a celebration, but you can't celebrate for too long when Ismail Fassi is on a fast lap. Well, not a fast lap to his sense, he says. He's just a humble perfectionist, is the Ferrari driver. He might not thought it was good enough, but it was definitely enough for pole.
Just over 200ths of a second makes Ismail Fassi your pole sitter for later on today at 3:30 p.m. And there you can see a confirmation of that. It's a very serious face. He's come into this season. It's business. It's business time for Ismail. And when you set such high standards and you don't feel you delivered it, but you're still on pole, that shows that he knows there's more potential.
Pressure for a runner-up from last season, it has to be said, and with a new team like Ferrari as well, you've got that expectation certainly to perform at the very top, and he is responding in great style. And if he can end the final round of this first event of F1 Sim Racing, it could be massive. Obviously, challenges for those behind. Big shocker, Joris Krozen, I think, Tom. I think after the 2 back-to-back displays we've seen in qualifying and point scoring as well. But yeah, it's obviously there's still work to be done at Haas. They can do something with the race strategy, and Joris Krozen, still a vibrant talent. We'll see what he can do in the race.
Yeah, also in Q2, we heard from John Evans. Disappointed, but that improvement for every race that he has. Jarno Ottmer out in Q2 again. Do you think it's maybe the commentator's curse in some way that we talked up Red Bull so much, came to Japan, and it all sort of went awry, and now Freddie's starting off in P6 later on today?
It's the trend though, Tom. Jarno's never been a great qualifying driver, though he may have some poles against his name historically. In recent I suppose, renditions of the F1 sim, the F1 game, Jarno has never really featured as a top player in terms of qualifying. He's not all about the one-lap pace. He's all about the race trim, the strategy. That's where his brains lie, and that is why he is a 3-time world champion. I say the phrase often, poles for show, points for dough, and that's exactly what Jarno's chasing.
He's picked up 1 point. We will see. When we spoke to Freddie on Friday when we were racing around China, we said to Freddie, like, Nicola said to him, you know, this is great. He said, no points at stake here. He only has 1 for that pole. That's where Ismail is. Starting off in P2 to complete the front row is Otis Lawrence and Nico Longe in 3rd. They're with Nicola now.
They certainly are. I am stood here with the boys in blue, different teams, different positions. I mean, I was speaking to you just now, Nico, and you went, I'm so sick of P3.
Yeah, that's the 3rd qualifying in a row that I'm P3, and I mean, obviously, I'm happy with it. I can't complain. It's a perfect place to start for the race, especially in Bahrain, where the race is known to be a bit chaotic. At least we hope. Well, at least I don't hope, actually, because I'm at the front. But yeah, sorry. I'm just happy with the P3 lap. I didn't really expect much more. I knew it wasn't my best track of the 3 of event 1, so I'm very happy with third. Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really tight up top there, but if you've done P3 for the last the races, and now we've got the race later on in Bahrain, you kind of got practice there from that position, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully I don't do a repeat of yesterday. I don't want to go through that again. So hopefully a clean start and have like a normal race. That's the ideal scenario for me, and just bring home a good bunch of points.
Otis, it was really lovely for you to come over. You shook hands, had a good chat. How was your lap? How was your lap? Otis, how was your lap?
I think I perfected my lap, to be honest. I wasn't really the quickest at this track. I was out in Q2 the last season around Bahrain, so I think I made the best of a bad situation. The car, the pace wasn't quite there, but P2, I won from P2 yesterday, so hopefully I can win from P2 again.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're coming into today on a high. You went back to Enstone last night. You did some more practice. Are you not a bit tired?
Well, I am a little bit tired. It's been a week of flat out driving, non-stop 10 hours a day. But yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, I love driving. I love doing it. So yeah, it's all worth it.
Well, now stood here with the both of you. I mean, game on. Bring on Bahrain, right?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Back to you guys.
Bring on Bahrain. That is exactly what we're doing. Thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you, Nico and Otis. 10 hours a day. That just gives perspective for what is going into their preparations to end up on P2. He thought he'd give it everything, 200th of a second. Bahrain is really going to throw something up there today for us, Kai. Earlier on, we heard from Jake Benham. He said it's messy. It's normally a messy race. What did you take from Jake's analysis of Bahrain?
Well, I think he put it perfectly. Messy is a great way to describe Bahrain, but messy in a beautiful way. That's exactly what we want to see from a spectators and a commentary standpoint. However, for the drivers, it's not going to be ideal for them. A lot of overtakes, a lot of DRS trains, a lot of rash moves we've seen in the past as well, and with multiple strategy choices being on the table, that throws a curveball as well.
And earlier on, so let me put this into context because we're going to go away. We're going to come back for 3:30. So now teams are talking about this alternative strategy. It's trying to work out the moves of every other team at the moment because as yesterday you saw, Ismail Fassi had a lower fuel going into the race. So that was the strategy.
Yeah, well, this is why they couldn't catch Nico and Freddie because they automatically had to back off because otherwise if he had just continued, they would have run out of fuel. He wouldn't have made it to the end. So they had to almost allow Otis to carry on through and then by extension, try and get the DRS off Otis to save a little bit of fuel, but then it wasn't enough. Otis had enough to break away from Ismail, leaving him in the lurch. Of course, the result at the very end, it still went Fassi's way to a certain degree. He was able to get P2 off the back of the penalties that went the way of Nicolas Longuet, for example. Of course, Rasmussen had his crash. But I think what's going to be interesting about the strategy today, Tom...
Go on, break it down.
Quite a few of the teams from yesterday felt that they would have been better served moving on to the soft tyre at the start of the race as opposed to going from the medium hard medium. And I was quite surprised, and I said to you about this as well, Kai, and we spoke about it during the qualifying. I wouldn't be surprised today if we see drivers starting on the softs.
Yeah.
There you go. I don't think there's anything need to be said. I'm going to go and get some 10-pin bowling practice in with what I've worn today. That's give us an hour till we go racing around Bahrain. To Kai, to George, to Nicola. We will see you very shortly. Thank you very much for watching. And this is going to be an epic race later on.